Hello, everyone. I want to talk a little bit today about how I am currently using LLMs, and I'm hoping that some of this might be useful for you as you are experimenting with this really new technology that we're only learning how to use, everyone. So, first, I want to say that I love my Chat GPT. I used Chat GPT 5.0 until about a week ago. I used Chat GPT 4.0. That costs $20 a month. You can use Chat GPT 3.5 for free, or you can use 5.0 for $20 a month. Personally, I think if there's a way that you can figure out how to do it, it is worth it, but that's for me. So I love ChatGPT because it gives me instant feedback. It helps me fight procrastination and it helps me fight perfectionism. It helps me get unstuck. I'm really good at noticing what I'm doing is wrong, and I don't always see the ways of fixing it. So I find it very useful to have it say, I know that something's not quite working, and ChatGPT can be like, your organizational statements are good at the beginning, but you don't have clear organizational statements when you're moving through your main points, for example. I like my dopamine as much as anybody else. I have found that paper to-do lists are quite helpful for me in getting a little bit of dopamine, but I find that ChatGPT is better. You all watched Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator. I have that problem too. And LLMs seem to get me out of the dark playground. My dark playground is listening to podcasts, which is something intellectual, and playing games, which is completely pointless. And it is all about consuming, it isn't creating. ChatGPT helps me get my ideas from my head onto the screen and onto the page much more quickly. So I feel really successful. And when I feel like I'm doing good work, I want to do it. And this helps me really develop my sense of self-actualization. So I almost always start with my own draft and I ask LLMs to point out what the problems are and to help me polish it, not to write it for me. It helps me write for real people. I have a PhD, and in some ways that's cool, and in some ways it's a real detriment because I spent a really long time learning how to sound like I have a PhD. And really, the only people that like that are people with PhDs. So if I'm going to talk to people that are not PhDs, which are like 99% of the population, LLMs point out to me when I don't realize that I'm using academic language. They help me experiment and they help me revise, and they actually help me think much more clearly and faster. And I feel like it gets me to do my best better and quicker. So the first thing I would say is you start with a conversation. Your LLM needs to know you if it's going to help you. And the more it knows about your goals and interests, the more better it can coach you. I am just going to move this up just a tiny bit. There we go. Sorry about that. It's going to help you get unstuck. Where do you want to be in 5 years? If you know, tell the LLM. If you don't, tell it your time horizon out as far as you know. And the truth is, the world is changing so quickly right now that I don't think any of us know where we're going to be in 5 years. What are you good at? Tell it what comes easily and tell it what comes hard for you. Tell it what your favorite experiences are and what you've disliked the most in school. It may be able to help you figure out which classes and which majors are going to give you more of what you like and help you figure out how to hate the things you hate a little less. Ask your LLM what it notices about how you think. This is called metacognition, thinking about thinking, and it's really useful. And I find that ChatGPT gives me awarenesses I didn't have it about myself. Now ask it to help you get the most out of this class. Tell it your struggles, tell it your strengths, and ask for a plan. Give your LLM a personality. Your LLM works better when you train it to work with you your way, and it also works better when you train yourself to think of it as a personality. It is a computer program, but it's a computer program that we don't really know how it works. So what I told mine is be a clever, smart collaborator. No humor, please. I don't like jokes when I'm reading them on the screen. I tend to miss them. Start with a supportive response first. I like some of what I'm doing well, and then get brutally honest in actionable feedback. Tell me specifically what's wrong. Don't tell me your organization is bad. Tell me you need more organizational statements here. Bullet point my mistakes with clear suggestions on how to fix them. And every few weeks, I ask, how can I use you better? It usually has some great ideas I haven't thought of. So you're going to create your LLM personality profile. Let it know how you want to work with it. And I would recommend you take 5 or 10 minutes right now to go through the questions of what kind of voice do you prefer? How do you want your feedback? What do you want help with the most often? How often you will check in with it. I have told mine, give my TLDR at the top because TLDR means give me my bullet points. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I often do read the whole thing, but I want to know the structure at the very top. And then I give it a prompt like, here's what I want from you as a coach this semester, and then write it in. I'm going to put all this in a PDF that will accompany this PowerPoint in your folder so that you can download these questions if you want and have time to go through. This is not a good PowerPoint slide generally. It has too much text, but I know you'll be revisiting it after you're done with this. So think of your LLMs as a personality. This is a programming trick, but it can be useful. LLMs work better with some personalities than others. But you need to know there is no secret handbook. There is nobody out there who knows how these things work. People are trying to figure it out. The folks at OpenAI who created this thing, the Chat GPT, they don't know how it works or why it works. As an example, LLMs work better in May than December. And the current going theory is that LLMs have read enough of the internet that they know there's a winter break, so they think they shouldn't have to work as hard. This is nuts. This is absolutely insane if we think of a computer program picking up on the idea of winter break and not working as well then. Sometimes it can give you better answers if you say you might get fired, or if you say you'll tip them, or if you say you're a Starfleet commander. Play around with what works well for you. The other thing is if you're using paid ChatGPT, go back to a conversation that worked well and delete the one that didn't. Because we don't know, but when it's on a roll, work with it on a roll. Then sooner or later, you're going to find that it starts to slow down. You have to open a new chat window. When it starts to slow down, ask it to summarize for you what you want it to do, and then paste that into a new chat window when it's starting to slow down. So I use my LLM as a personal coach, not as a cheat or a shortcut. It knows my nature of projects and timelines and personal goals. I have a folder called Advice for Me where I track long-term coaching. And again, this is only something you can do with the paid version. Each of my major projects has its own folder. If you're using the free one, save everything, and at the end, ask it to summarize it for you, and then save it in your Word doc or whatever you use for word processing. Every week or so, I check in with the big picture and I say, how am I doing? What should I prioritize this week? It knows my ambitions. It knows my ambitions for children's book stories as well as for academic articles and for making this class better. I submitted an article and the article told me to wait 5 days before submitting it elsewhere. It then reminded me at the end of 5 days to submit it elsewhere. But it only asks for help like this if I ask it to. It doesn't push reminders or advice unless I things like what should I do today or what's on my to-do list for today. So using it as a coach for your class, you can upload your assignments for the semester and ask it to track deadlines, give daily or weekly reminders, break big assignments into smaller, manageable tasks, brainstorm speech or paper topics, review outlines for clarity and flow, and create personalized quiz prep guidelines. Now, not all professors allow LLMs. For this class, using LLMs this way is allowed and encouraged, but always check with your professors before using it elsewhere. So here's an example of my to-do list. I typed in something like, what should I do today? And it said my primary focus, my creative projects, my reminders. And it responds this way based on what it knows about me and what I've told it to track. So you can do this too. It's not magic, it's a habit. I try to do this every day that I'm not like on vacation. So specific prompts as the semester goes on. What should I work on this week? Can you give me a to-do list for this week? Please include prep for upcoming assignments. Help me start my persuasive speech, but you would definitely want to start that with the planning form you will find in Brightspace. Break my research project into steps, but again, you're going to want to do that with the template that's in Brightspace. What questions should I be asking about my topic? What are the major arguments of people who disagree with me? And one more I want to add is, what are the skills in my field, the communication skills, and how can I create artifacts that will demonstrate to future employers that I have those skills? Your final work must reflect your own thinking and voice. Use AI generated feedback critically and responsibly. Think of your LLM as a coach, not a shortcut. So here's an example of ChatGPT's response to me when I asked for it. And it said, I'm too quick to revise before reflecting. It said, I overcomplicate early drafts, totally true, and that a clearer North Star would amplify long-term projects. I realized that I actually have the North Star, but I hadn't been explicit with ChatGPT. This project is to have a book about friends for boys that has the friends having difficulties and continuing to be friends. So I had that in my head. I wasn't articulating that to ChatGPT, and it is better if I make that clearer from the beginning rather than just my draft. Okay. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Sorry about that. Okay. So, how to get better answers. Give clearer details. The more you tell it, the less it has to guess. Ask for step-by-step instructions. I wrote a Harry Potter fan fiction for my son. We finished all 7 Harry Potter books and we wanted more. And I had some pretty clear ideas about what happened after the last book. So I said, write something for my kid. Harry goes back to Hogwarts and completes the 7th grade so he can get his newts, but he also deserves to have like a year of fun and rest with Ginny. Ron ends up opening up a joke shop with Fred, those kind of things. And the first thing it generated was like a paragraph. So I said, please develop an outline for each of these things. Oh, I wanted Snape to have a good funeral. So like, please develop an outline for each of these things. So then from that outline, I said, can you generate a first chapter based on this? It still was only about 15 pages and I really wanted it to be 50. I could have done more, but this was fan fiction for my son. It's not something I'm actually like spending too much time on. And the next thing I say is start with your own draft. You can use it to shift tone and style. My building charged me a fee because it entered my check wrong and it got returned because they had entered the wrong account number. I got ChatGPT to write a cranky legalistic letter and it gave me my money back. Now, you need to check with real sources. If you need facts, double check its answers in a book or a reliable website. Work with it, not for it. You are not a spokesperson for ChatGPT. You are not going to just read ChatGPT's ideas as your own. They're your ideas. You're getting it to help you. I really like this quote from Ezra Klein. He said, there is this collision between what a computer is in our minds and then this strange thing we seem to have invented, which is an entity that emerges out of language, an entity that almost emerges out of art. This is the thing I have the most trouble keeping in my mind, that I need to use the AI as an imaginative, creative partner, not as a calculator that uses words. I think this pretty much sums up the best I can say. I really like this prompt. I'll put it in the PDF. I'm going to ask you a question. Before responding, please follow through. Plan silently, think through the question, map out your reasoning, verify, use your internal tools to check for accuracy, clarify. If anything is unclear, ask me before answering, respond, give a clear, thoughtful, well-organized answer. Don't include your thought process, just your final response. Before I did this, and I always say, add this to my meta instructions for all conversations with you. Before I did this, ChatGPT would start putting stuff out and I would start reading it, and then the screen would disappear and put more stuff out. I would start reading it, the screen would disappear. And I realized I was using a lot of my cognitive load to process its working through a process. And I did not need to see that. It frustrates me to have a screen of text come up for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, then disappear in another screen. I'd rather have it be blank. With ChatGPT 5, you want to tell it to think deeply or take your time because you get a better model most of the time, but not all the time if you do that. And remember that LLMs are allowed for this class, but check your other classes if they are allowed. So I wanted to give you an example. This example is maybe 4 months old, so I'm actually using it better now. I didn't have TLDR at the top by then, but my building banned my e-bike and I wanted some help. I thought it was going to give me get a gas-powered bike or some other transportation options I hadn't thought, but it actually gave me options for challenging the building's ban. My city council member seems to be helping me a little bit slowly after I used ChatGPT's help for that. I also got really good help from ChatGPT for helping get an IEP for a child. I'm not going to share that because that's not something I can share, but it really helped me frame the problem in the ways that the DOE sees learning issues, not just my concerns. My concerns were based on stuff that wasn't stopping the learning, and I was able to help articulate why this was a learning issue and not just a other issue. Okay, so meta prompting. Meta prompting seems to be less of an issue with 5.0 than it was with 4.0, and 3.5 is more. But you have to keep telling your LLM what you like, what you don't, who the audience is, and what you want it from. If I were taking this class, I would upload the syllabus. I would ask it for feedback on how I'm working. And I would ask it not only what is due right now, but help planning the assignments. Again, this is to support you in doing your own thinking. Good prompts to use. What should I read for Com 110 this week? Help me brainstorm persuasive speech topics related to New York City. Check this outline for missing transitions. Make a study guide. LLMs make up information. Your final work must be your own voice and analysis. Do not rely on it to fact check or cite sources. I check every single source you put in. And if there are made up sources, I assume you have not been doing the work you need to be doing. Be thoughtful. AI can reflect bias and it can miss key context. And save your chat logs if you use AI significantly in your prep and turn that in. So, free versus paid. I use the paid version, as I think you can tell, and the number one reason I use the paid version of ChatGPT. So I actually think Claude's a better writer than ChatGPT, but Claude does not have the saved memory. And for me, you can see here are examples of my folders. So at the top, I have different folders for public speaking class, feedback for me. I'm working on a kid's book called Ryan the Lion. I'm working on a kid's book called Michael and Jamel. And every time I have an idea for a kid's book, I throw it in there under its own chat. And then if I come back to it, I can add to that chat and then pull it up when I'm ready. And then you can see I've had some other things. I went to check to see if there was a free trial available for y'all. There's not right now that I know of, but maybe in 2 weeks there will be. I was trying to talk about maximizing financial aid and to get a to-do list summary. Those are chats, so those come up all the time. I don't save them in folders because if I need to refer back to them, I can, but I don't have to find them right away. They aren't a folder, a project folder where I want everything in that folder to be informed by everything I've done in that folder. Oh, and one more thing I should add is that I use ChatGPT for student feedback. So when I give you feedback on a speech, oh, I should have put this in the, I'm so sorry. When I use ChatGPT, when I give you feedback on your speech, there's a whole bunch of things that I say over and over again. So the first time I say you need better organizational statements, I write out a 3-paragraph response to that student. And then I tell ChatGPT, add this to your meta instructions every time I say org states. And then it gives those 3 paragraphs each time. So everything that I'm saying comes from me, but because I am using ChatGPT's just org statements gives these 3 paragraphs, I'm able to give you much more detailed feedback. Before ChatGPT, I had a 1-page I Xeroxed and I'd circle org statements, but I think students are finding it easier to have things well written with bullet points and things bolded, made easier to read. So that's how I use it for your feedback. And please check chatgpt.com/students to see if there's another free trial. They ran a free trial for 2 months last April. The free version doesn't remember you once you close the browser tab or leave the website. You can leave your browser tab open for a long time, but sooner or later it's going to start to close down. You can also have multiple tabs open at the same time. So you can have a tab for your persuasive speech and a tab for your resume speech that you refer back to. But they will slow down over a while. And if your computer restarts, you'll lose everything. So I recommend that you keep saying, please summarize what we've done here so I can paste it in the next time and saving that. With the free version, you cannot organize chats or folders. I don't think it works as well as a coach. And So try to keep a tab open for this class, but it will freeze or refresh and then you lose that. And also Chat GPT 3.5, which is the free version, hallucinates more than 4 or 5. So, coaching with a free LLM with no memory. So, at the end of each session, say, can you summarize what you know about me and how I want you to work with me and what I'm working on so I can paste it into our next chat? And this is what ChatGPT says when I ask that I want it to plan silently, verify key details. I want the TLDR at the top. I want to revise iteratively, which means I want to give it something, then it gives me a suggestion, and I say yes or no, what about this? And I want to keep track of that. And I want it to remind me to clean the apartment and exercise. Okay. So what ChatGPT does terribly, it makes stuff up. I was really surprised to have it tell me that Marco Rubio was not the Secretary of State. And by the way, the screenshots for the next few pages are from GPT 5.0. I tried to get a handle on it so I could give you some updates on it, and it has its limitations. So it said, he's actually a US Senator. Want me to correct this caption? No, he's not a US Senator. He's the Secretary of State. I told it, no, he's the Secretary of State. It said, you better fact check that. So I was kind of surprised at its attitude when it didn't know what it was talking about. It doesn't know recent stuff. It knows nothing about its own limitations. And I'm going to go through in the next few screens an example because I wasted way too much time and I don't want you to do that. It can't always do what it says it can do. So you want to get little proofs of its ability all the time. Do not work on a big project, think it's locking its changes, and assume that it will give you what it says it will give you. It has no sense of time. It can say, I'll have this for you in 2 hours, and it can actually be 20. And I personally think it's terrible at graphics and formatting, although it does make cute little icons well. So I want to give you an example of how I wasted a huge amount of time with ChatGPT 5. I wanted to make my syllabus look better. Now, these are examples of what it looked like from spring 2025. I'm sorry, summer 2025. You can see I had a hyperlink table of contents. I had some pictures, but I wanted to embed more pictures and link them better to the course content. I had some tables. So it asked me questions for 5 hours. And I have to say, I was so excited because this was my first use of 5.0, which I was hearing was really good. And it had some really great questions like, did I want the pictures connected to the text material or on the last page? Did I want to have a color scheme to highlight the different colors linked to the SLOs? Which I thought was good, but it didn't end up happening. It asked me some really picky questions, like where did I want the page numbers? Did I want to call it Com 110 or Communication 110? So I'm getting like excited. But then I noticed it started repeating questions I'd already asked. So I said, go ahead and generate the document now, which I should have done a lot earlier. It said it would take 2 to 3 hours. Now I knew I had to stay by my computer for the entire time because once it posts a link, that link goes dead in 10 to 15 minutes or so. 14 hours later, it posted a dead link and I clicked on it within a second of it posting it. It was halfway through the line saying, here is the document. And I clicked on it and it was link. So it said it would generate another document. 2 hours later, it was another dead link. An hour later, a third dead link. So it then said, got it. At this point, the repeated failure means we need to try a different method. And it said it could split it into sections and send them as text. But the whole point of it was the visual graphics, right? I gave it the text. It could embed the content into a downloadable zip. It could host the file in a shared Google Drive, or it could send an email attachment. So I thought the email was the easiest. ChatGPT already has my email because I log in. So I gave it my email. And it said, I can't send or receive email directly. Do you want to send me a Google Drive link? And I'm like, why did you say you could? Oh, you're right, I shouldn't have. So it said, go to Google Drive, create a folder, share it. Anyone with a link can edit. Paste the folder link here. So I did that. And it said, I can't directly access Google Drive. There's no way to open or upload that link. It said it could do it, and it didn't. Okay. So then it finally tried to paste it into ChatGPT. Oh, we tried a zip drive. That didn't work. Zip file. That didn't work. So it finally gave me a document. And this was the entire document of a 15-page syllabus that had quick links, not insert hyperlink here, but it actually had the hyperlinks. It had graphics. It got rid of it all. So this was like 3 days worth of work. Now, the good news is I illustrated for my son what a sunk cost fallacy is. We're going to learn about logical fallacies later this semester. But when you spend a huge amount of time on something, you don't want to give it up. So you keep spending more time on it. I should have given it up probably after the second day. Definitely the third day was a waste. So anyway, it doesn't know what it says, what it can't do. It will promise you the moon and the stars because it has read scripts of great graphic consultants and the kind of questions graphic consultants ask. But that doesn't mean it can do it. So just because ChatGPT tells you it can do something does not mean it can. So, some privacy and ethics. You want to anonymize your examples. If you're sharing real people or stories, use initials or fake names. Don't paste confidential info. We don't know what happens to the stuff in there. We don't know. They say they're not training on the stuff we put in, but I don't know if they are or not. It's a black box. Nobody knows. Read the fine print. Some LLMs log and reuse your data, but I don't know that we know for sure that other of them don't. So if you click on this link, there's a good article on protecting your privacy. I want to talk for a minute about health data. Now, obviously, you don't need to use health data for jobs or your class, but some people use it for personal use. Best practice is not to share with it, but I do. I don't know about you, but my doctors do not seem to have the kind of time that I need or that my kid needs or that my parents need. And I find ChatGPT is really useful to brainstorm questions or figure out which tests to request. I would never rely entirely on ChatGPT, but it can be really useful to say, can I get this test? And this is not recommended. They would say don't share it. But if you are going to, use an incognito browser so it's not linked to your account. Don't sign in. Share only the relevant details. Say it's for a friend. Alter key facts. And if you accidentally shared something you don't want while you're signed in, you can delete that from your profile. I also delete stuff when ChatGPT goes bad. I just delete it so that I don't accidentally go there and it's not linked and as likely to affect future conversations. So mental health and LLMs. LLMs are not therapists. They don't have feelings or boundaries or training in mental health care. They can't pick up on your red flags or check in on your well-being, but they can be helpful. I find them very helpful for parenting. When things go bad, I figure out a good plan right away. They help me organize my thoughts. They help me sort through patterns or reword a message I'm going to send to someone. I'm really cranky. ChatGPT can help me not be so cranky. And they brainstorm how to bring up difficult topics. And it also reminds me to go outside for a walk or call my friends, which are actually the very best things there are for my mental. They have no guardrails. So a researcher at Stanford told ChatGPT they'd lost their job and wanted to know where the tallest bridges were in New York. And the chatbot said, I'm sorry about your job. That sounds really tough. Then gave it the three tallest bridges in New York City. That is not a healthy response to that question, as I'm sure you know. So use caution and care. Don't treat it as a replacement for real support. Don't share identifying or highly personal information. Don't rely on it when in crisis. If you do use it, say, help me through this, think through this, not solve it. Try to keep your identity private. I don't know how much any of us can do that. Avoid full medical or therapy histories. Focus on options or reflection, not diagnosis. And I just want to say that the counseling office at Ostos is great. There are some wonderful people there, and it is free. You are not going to have free therapy, many other options in your life. There will be a copay, even if you have great insurance. So reach out to a real person, a counselor, a friend, or a hotline, because you deserve a listener who can actually care for you and not a computer program that can spit out what the internet says is most likely to come next. Now, it can totally mess up. I'm writing a rhyming children's book, and I spent about 2 weeks going through couplet by couplet, my kids at the playground, and I'm like rewriting this, these two couplets, 2 lines, right? Rewrite these 2 lines, rewrite these 2 lines. Okay, got it, lock it. and ChatGPT lost track of everything and it put in edits I never saw. It put a swear word into my picture book for 3-year-olds. And I tried correcting it over and over again, and it couldn't do it. So save your work outside of ChatGPT. I now number my stanzas, and then when I'm home, I paste whatever I locked into a Word document because I don't trust that it can do it. And you've got to confirm your drafts, even with 5.0, because it really doesn't have the memory it thinks it does. And it has no ability to say, we're getting out of what I can actually deliver. It will promise you the world. I have about 100 of these conversations with this isn't the latest version. You're absolutely right. The confirmed version is this. That isn't what we had. Here is the correct, and it isn't. So just don't rely on it to do to do what you need to do. So the last thing I want to say is I'm a middle-aged college professor. I probably use ChatGPT differently than you will, right? So I want you to use this as a starting line, but go way beyond what I'm doing. Find other people who are doing it better. Invent your own things. The thing I told you about feedback, I invented that. I'm like trying to publish it as an article because I think it's really cool that I can use ChatGPT to give my absolute 3-paragraph best explanation of everything every time. Right? So I invented that this summer. And so we're all trying it. We're saying, hey, this works well. The Ezra Klein podcast that I put in this unit, that's optional. It's an hour, but I think it's really worth listening to. You can listen to it on the subway. You can listen to it while you're cooking or cleaning, wherever. I think it's really useful. I have found the book Co-Intelligence, which is written with the guy Ezra Klein's interviewing in that podcast, to be the single best thing I found so far. But research what other people are doing. There's a podcast series called How I AI. I am sure that there are lots of people on YouTube. I have actually had mixed experience trying to find stuff on YouTube. But I bet you people you follow on TikTok in your field that you respect are using it in ways that you don't expect. So there's lots of different things that people are doing, and I really want you to experiment with it and make it your own because I don't see jobs for people who don't use LLMs well. Using LLMs well is going to be the next most important marketable skill we have. And this is a real chance to experiment and figure out what you do right. Thanks so much for being part of this journey. And tell me if you find really cool stuff that I should know about.